Hello all, welcome to the Mastering Up YouTube channel. So in this course of Foundation in Plant Physiology and Anatomy, we are going to discuss about the history of photosynthesis research. Okay, so let's start with our class. So here we will be unraveling the mystery of plant life. Let's see what all are there in these coming slides. Now, before starting about that whole history basis of photosynthesis, we need to know what is photosynthesis. From the first class itself, we have been studying it. So, let's just recap that. Photosynthesis is a plant's method of producing its own food. It utilizes sunlight. So, it utilizes sunlight, water, carbon dioxide to craft a special sugar known as glucose. So here we will see it's a plant's method for producing its own food, and then it utilizes sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and it makes glucose. This entire process takes place in the plant's green plant part. So it's chlorophyll, chloroplast, and it is such as its leaf. So in the leaves, chloroplasts are present, and in chloroplast, chlorophyll pigments are present. In that way, the plant utilizes these all things to form sugar, or you can say glucose. So now the learning objective. Here we will explore the timeline and breakthroughs in understanding the photosynthesis. First, let's start with the introduction. So what all things are needed by the plants to produce this photosynthesis to function the photosynthesis process. So what the plant utilizes, I already told in the definition. Let's look. First, sunlight. Sunlight serves as the primary source of energy for plants. Then water. Plants need water to mix with carbon dioxide and sunlight. Now chlorophyll. Chlorophyll captures the sunlight and helps turn it into food. And carbon dioxide. Plants require carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Okay, now why is photosynthesis important? Why are we learning this photosynthesis from the first class itself? Why it is so important? Let's look. I think you know all those things. Just looks. Photosynthesis is important because it produces oxygen. Oxygen is vital for the living organisms to breathe. It also serves as a foundation of the food chain as it provides the primary source of energy for plants and subsequently for herbivores and carnivores. Okay, so here it is important to note that it is the primary source of energy. Okay, so this oxygen is the primary source of energy, and this oxygen is produced by plants through photosynthesis. So that's why the photosynthesis has a very important role in the functioning of the ecosystem. Now let's go into our topic, that is the history of photosynthesis research. Okay, so first of all, let's see how these ancient observers observed those things about photosynthesis, how they find that plants need to take something to we can see that plants are growing, right? So from their imagination they thought some of these points, how these plants are growing, how they are taking food, like we humans are taking food, and as a result we are growing now. So in the same way the plants also in some kind of manner is taking food and they are growing. So they observed those things. Okay, first, early ideas about the plant growth was given by the ancient Greeks. They believed that the plants absorb soil nutrients, or you can say in the Aristotle's theory, plants eat soil substances. So according to them, they thought that plants eat or plants utilizes from the soil. Okay, so plants absorb the nutrients from the soil. Actually, in some point of view that is right, but it's not only this soil thing, other things are also there that we will be discussing in the coming slides. Okay, so the limitation of this theory was there was a lack of scientific tools and methodologies. This was just a belief. Okay, so they just observed and they just believed that there was no scientific proof for that. Okay, now the discoveries of the 17th century. It was done by some scientist, Jan Baptist van Helmont, in 1648. So they done a willow tree experiment. He done a willow tree experiment. Oh, in willow tree experiment, what he done was he planted a willow tree and in the soil and watered it. Okay, so before planting, he took the weight of the soil that is present inside, present in which the plant is planted. Okay, and then he found that after few years he found that the weight of the soil is not that much changed. The weight of the soil is not changed that much. The small quantity of weight difference was only present, and in that way he concluded that the plant mass doesn't comes from the soil alone. Okay, so the soil alone doesn't give food to the plant. So he also known the from this discovery, this experiment, we can conclude that plants gain mass from water. So the plants gain mass mainly from the water, not only from the soil. Okay, so that was the one of the main takeaway of in the 17th century by this scientist with the willow tree experiment. Now there's Joseph Priestley and oxygen discovery in 1770s. So the experiment was Joseph Priestley done an experiment to what find out the oxygen, to discover the oxygen. So what he did was he placed a candle and a mouse in a sealed jar. Okay, so there was no air circulation from inside or outside the jar. So a candle was placed and a sealed jar was there. So this sealed jar, inside a sealed jar, a candle and a mouse was present. Okay, so when the candle is burning, it produces carbon dioxide, and this mouse it needs oxygen. Okay, so this circulation of the air was not present because both of these things are utilizing carbon dioxide, oxygen. Mouse also needs oxygen for the burning purpose, it needs oxygen. So that's why this mouse died in the jar. But after that he took a plant and placed inside the jar. Along with the candle and the mouse, he placed the plant. So in that way he found out that the mouse is not dying, the mouse was alive in the jar. In that way he found that there was a circulation of air inside the jar. You can see the plants take carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. This oxygen is utilized by the mouse for respiration. So in that way he found out that the plants produce a vital gas. Later it was identified as oxygen. Now the Jan Ingenhousz in 1779, he done an experiment that showed that the sunlight is essential for the oxygen production. So from his experiment he found out sunlight was essential for oxygen production. Here its key contribution was the use of light to release oxygen. So first we known about the water, then we known about the oxygen, or we can say the plants produce oxygen, and now we came to know about that light is really important in this process of producing oxygen. Okay, now let's go into the 19th century advancements. So Nicolas Theodore de Saussure in 1804 he demonstrated the role of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, and Julius von Sachs in 1862 he discovered chlorophyll and its role in absorbing light energy. He was the first to show that starch is the product of photosynthesis. So this was some of the major discoveries happened in the 19th century. Okay. Now coming to the 20th century. 20th century was mainly considered a breakthrough because after that we got more knowledge about this process. Okay. C.B. Van Neel in 1930s he proposed the equation for photosynthesis. That we know the famous equation for the photosynthesis, that is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water gives our glucose, or we can say our sugar plus oxygen. He identified the splitting of water, that is not from the carbon dioxide. He identified that carbon dioxide is not the source of oxygen, but in fact its water is the source of oxygen that is utilized by the plant for photosynthesis. Now Melvin Calvin in 1950s he discovered the Calvin cycle, light independent reaction, and he got Nobel Prize in chemistry in 1961. This light independent and light dependent reactions will be studied in other classes. Now coming to the modern era, what happened in the modern era, the research focuses were happened, because we know all those basic things that are happening inside the plant. So now the research focuses were done. The focus was mainly on the research purposes. So the mechanistic details of the light absorption and electron transport chains, okay, electron transport system, and the light absorption reactions and all photosystem 1 and 2 genetic engineering to prove the photosynthesis efficiency, importance in tackling the climate change and food security. These things were the main focus of the research in the modern era. Now conclusion, recap the milestones of the photosynthesis research. So first the Greek thinkers, they thought that the soil was the plants take nutrients from the soil, or the plants eat soil. Then the willow experiment was conducted and found out that the mass is not only coming from the soil but major part is coming from the water. Then the oxygen discovery was done from the jar and seal jar, candle and mouse experiment. And after that, importance of sunlight was found. Then they found that sunlight is important for the role, what sunlight is important for the production of oxygen. Then we came to know about the light dependent and light independent reaction. The formula for the starch is the product of photosynthesis, and then the formula of photosynthesis. And then we came to know about what the search look into that, discovered the Calvin cycle, light independent reactions. Okay, so these all things were done. So that was the we had a nice recap about the topic. And now we have also highlighted the importance of light and scientific innovations in this previous slide. Genetic engineering to improve the photosynthesis efficiency and importance in tackling the climate change and food security. Future directions, sustainable energy and environmental solutions. So through this, what are the major future goal is, for all the topics, the major future goal is for sustainable energy. Okay, we have to achieve the sustainable tactics for conservation of the energy in a sustainable manner. So that's one of the major future directions for our topic. So that's all was with this topic. Let's just again one more time just look at those discoveries. Ancient observation that was done by the ancient Greeks, Aristotle's theory that plants eat soil. There was lack of scientific measures or scientific tools regarding this what ideas. Now then, in the 17th century, Jan Baptist van Helmont, he done the willow tree experiment, and he found out that plants gain mass from water, not only from the soil alone. Now that Joseph Priestley, he done oxygen discovery through that experiment, where he placed a candle and a mouse in a seal jar, and after that added a plant to observe the plants produce a vital gas which is later identified as oxygen. Now Jan Ingenhousz, he showed that the plants use light to release oxygen. Then the 19th century, Nicolas, he demonstrated the role of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, and Julius Monsange, he discovered chlorophyll and its role in absorbing light energy, and also he showed that the starch is the product of photosynthesis. Now in the 20th century, Van Niel, he proposed the equation of photosynthesis. He also identified that this oxygen is the source of oxygen is water, not carbon dioxide. And Melvin Calvin, he discovered the Calvin cycle, light independent reactions. The modern breakthrough was this all mechanistic details about the light absorption and ETS, electrotransport chains, then photosynthesis system 1 and 2, and the genetic engineering to improve the photosynthesis efficiency, then importance on tackling the climate change and food security. Okay, the conclusion was, so we have all concluded, and that's all with our topic. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this class. See you in the next class.